Hello and welcome to an extra special bonus super podcast episode of the Computer Game Show. My name is Sean Bell, joined by Matthew Murray.
Hello.
And James Farley.
Hello.
These two are about ready to kill each other, I think. We've decided that because Google have just announced their mad new console, but not a console platform, whatever you want to call it, and it was literally the day after we recorded, but the day before our normal episode goes up, it would be really shitty to just kind of sit on it for a whole week and not talk about it until next week. So yeah, we thought we'd do a bonus episode about it. As you can probably imagine, conflicting feelings across the team.
Let's give it the hottest of takes on this show.
Yeah, I mean, as usual, I'm going to try and just, sit in the middle and see how that goes. But yeah, we'll see. So for those of you, if you somehow missed it, Google, so they've unveiled the Stadia, which is their new platform. It's their new gaming platform, which is entirely streaming based. So the idea is, so that there is there's a controller, but there's no actual console for it. It's just an app or piece of software, whatever, that you run on your Google Chromecast or your phone or your tablet or your laptop or whatever. And yeah, so it's similar to, On Live, which we did mention on the last episode, but hopefully a lot better. And basically, so they've only tested it with 1080p, but apparently they have confirmed it will stream up to 4K, depending on
and
your
also
connection.
Built to scale up to 8K when that's eventually a thing.
Jesus. That's physically impossible. It doesn't even exist
It's
yet.
happening.
Quick question. Is it Stadia or Stadia?
I'm going to say Stadia, surely.
I would say Stadia as well, because you're thinking
Oh,
about
did they say?
stadium.
I thought they said Stadia on that. Oh, have I got that wrong? Okay, Stadia, fine. Sorry, yes, it's plural of stadium, isn't it? You wouldn't say stadium. Fine, Stadia. And basically, the selling point. It was an interesting conference because obviously this was presented at GDC, which is game developers primarily, but also they did kind of invite the entire world to watch this, and it was the unveiling of the whole thing, and it was maybe a little bit dry at points, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Nice way of putting it, yeah.
So there is a controller which looks really nice, to be fair, and the trick with that is that connects directly to your Wi-Fi rather than to any particular device in the house. A, which reduces latency. B, reduces any faff between. So say if you're playing on the TV and then you want to transfer to playing on your tablet or your phone or whatever, that's like the controller doesn't have to fuck around resyncing with different devices and stuff. Obviously, they demoed this with Assassin's Creed. There's not been a huge amount. They haven't really confirmed any games, have they?
Oh, well, yeah, they got two, probably.
Two, yeah. They didn't really talk about latency, other than they obviously seem to think it's fine. I think that's physically impossible, but whatever. And in terms of what it does differently to, sort of previous similar services that we've seen, it has this whole thing about so it's got all this connectivity with YouTube, and if you are a streamer and you are streaming on YouTube, you can get the audience to come and play games with you if you really want to do that. And because it has, the one thing I did find really interesting is it's got this state sharing technology. So anyone who's ever used an emulator knows that you can use save states, which is essentially, even if the game itself doesn't have a save point wherever you're at, the emulator can save your current progress no matter what. And essentially it's got that for any game, with the added bonus that you can just create a link and send it to anyone.
Yeah.
So, which is nuts, and potentially really interesting. The examples they gave were that you could, if you were stuck on a level, you'd send the link to a mate. Hey, do you want to try this? Or if there's a certain challenge. I don't really see why this would replace just scoreboards, online scoreboards, but whatever. They sort of gave this example of if you're stuck on, if you want to challenge your friend to do a bit better than you can just send them the link to it. I mean, the potential for that
I
is...
took that more. It's less about beating scores and more like helping your friends. It's like the PS4 can do it, can't you? We can like share the controller.
Yeah.
Online.
But this is sort of asynchronous. Like you could literally go, right, create a link here, close the game, send the link to a mate, and then they can just pick up where you left off, which is nuts and potentially interesting.
Crazy stuff.
It's nuts, but okay, never mind. Go on.
No.
Let's go.
We'll get to that.
Let's go, James.
No, it's fine. But I'm just thinking, why would you want to do that? You know.
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I can see it being really interesting for like, I don't know, like if you had a game that was like entirely built around that, and it was, I don't know, if it was like a sort of a mystery game or something where it was like people all finding clues and sharing links with each other, and actually, or like intentionally fucking people over by sending them links to like the wrong bits. Mm-hmm. And do you know what I mean? Like, there's something to it.
You could be interested in mechanics.
Maybe there's something to it. It's just I can't imagine just saying to somebody, "Hey, look, come and play my game for me." It's just a bit, I don't know. But
I'm with you. I think in general, I can't see it being that useful for things that aren't designed specifically to make use of it. But I mean, in terms of the essentials, have I missed anything? So there was no mention of pricing, whether it's going to be a subscription or if you're going to just pay for games. They did talk about how, it's this whole fluidity thing of like, if the example they gave is like, oh, you're watching someone playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey or a video about Assassin's Creed Odyssey on YouTube, there'll just be a link that's just like play now, and it just loads up straight away. And they said that, within 5 seconds you can be in the game. Obviously, that there's an appeal to that because we all hate, like, patches and stuff have become a bit of a fucking nightmare now. The amount of times you'll load a console up, even though auto downloads are a thing, you will load a game up that you really want to play, and there's a 20 gig patch, and that's really fucking annoying. Also, just, huge download sizes when you first buy something as well. Totally bypassing that is
so
cool.
No game patches, no OS updates.
But there's one other thing for this, though, that I've just been thinking about. Mm-hmm. What does this mean for modding in the future?
Oh, it totally rules it out.
I mean, how are people going to do that? They're not going to be able to do it anymore, are they? Because they won't actually have like any.
Not going to have any access to
do anything with, which is that's a bit of a shame, I think.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I don't know if this is for me. I think the latency issue does rule out a lot of games or a lot of types of games. Certainly, if you're into particularly twitchy first-person shooters or fighting games or anything that involves a lot of precision, you might be out of luck. I mean,
but if that was really the case, surely ID wouldn't have got up on stage and said that they're impressed with the technology. I mean, or what?
How do you mean?
Game developers will go up on stages and say anything if it means they're going to get money. Man. I mean, it's like...
yeah, but I'm like, they're like,
so
hey,
cynical.
we think we think Doom Eternal is going to work well, and we're impressed with the technology. We were skeptical at first. Mm-hmm. If it was massively going to affect that, then sure they wouldn't put their game on the system regardless.
I mean, it can still be impressive, but not good enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, my feeling with this is I'm sure that the tech works, actually. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm not worried about that at all. And I think the other thing that I thought was good, I think that the controller idea is really interesting, and I really like that idea.
Yeah.
Like the idea.
And the controller itself looks beautiful, by the way. Like not like the mock-up we saw, although not a million miles off it, but really nice.
I mean, the sticks are in the wrong place, but
the left stick is in the wrong place.
Yeah. But apart from that, it looks fine, and I really like that idea, especially like the fact that you can use it on anything, because that also potentially bypasses the problem. If you're doing this on like an iOS device or whatever, like if they release like an app for it, it won't matter if you're using an iOS device because you won't have to pair with it or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's genius. I mean, that's a really good idea, and I think that's a fantastic idea.
But also, presumably, like, how do you use it outside of the house?
Yeah, well, there is that as well. I mean, but the thing is, I was saying to David, it's like the thing about this is like in Google's world, there's probably Wi-Fi everywhere. So this isn't a thing, for them that they consider to be a problem. But obviously for everybody else, it is like, not great. I mean, the other thing that I thought was really interesting from this whole thing, I know obviously this is like a developers conference, so it's not it's supposedly not aimed at people that play games or whatever. It's aimed at people that develop them. Now, I think that's bollocks because this is obviously the first showing of this, so it's going to get traction in like mainstream gaming press and things like that. So I would have thought that they'd have wanted to at least tailor it a bit to showing, why people should get excited about this. But the weirdest thing I thought from this was the lack of games, but also the lack of talking about who they're working with as well. You had Ubisoft there, like really briefly. They looked like they got, like there was NBA 2K, wasn't there, like up on the screen at one time. But there was no mention really of partners and who they're working with. And I think that's really interesting.
You mean apart from the Unreal Engine and Unity?
Yeah, no, but there's no publisher partnerships.
Though. There's actual
where's
devs
EA?
would have been cool.
Like, is FIFA coming on this? Do you see what I mean? It's like, that's what I mean, is like, where are the big publishers, are they putting their weight behind this or not? And it didn't seem clear as to whether they were or not, which is a bit weird, because if it was, if I was designing this, which obviously I'm not because I'm not really intelligent and really clever and everything, I'm not a Google executive, I'd have wanted to be showing people why this is the service that they should be like subscribing to, like, and why it's going to be a big deal. And it's going to be a big deal because we're going to have all these publishers on board. You're going to be playing all of their stuff at like the highest resolutions and that kind of thing, no latency, etc. But they didn't show anything, and that surprised me. Like, I thought, when you're showing games hardware, you have to also show why people should be excited about this, apart from the tech. The tech is very interesting, but it should be there to service the games. Like, that's what I'm really surprised they didn't show anything hardly at all of that.
They were perhaps unsurprisingly more in love with the tech than the actual things you can play on it, I think.
I mean, and that was my other main problem with it. I mean, it was the most corporate thing I've ever seen like that. I mean, it was so sterile, awful to watch. I mean, it didn't make me feel that Google care about gaming at all. It made me feel that they just want to control a platform and make sure that everyone's using their stuff, so that then they can harvest data. Probably, it's that's what it felt like to me. I mean, it's like, I'm sure the tech works. I've got no problem with that. As I said, controller is great, but I don't know. It didn't feel like they're going into this with a desire to sort of engage with the community or anything like that, apart from YouTube creators. But I don't want to talk about that because that was painful to watch.
That bit was, yeah.
That was awful. And also, the other thing was, it felt to me also that they're trying to use this to kill off Twitch. It's like, they didn't mention Twitch. It's like, in their world, Twitch doesn't exist. Everyone uses YouTube gaming, as the main thing. That was interesting, and
yeah. I mean, but I don't think they are, and like YouTube gaming itself is dead anyway. Like, they killed that last year, and it's just they basically, I think they just used YouTube as like the platform rather than YouTube gaming specifically. I mean, in terms of being sterile, I mean, this felt like any of all their other sort of Google presentations, like Android presentations, and when they announced new Pixel phones and stuff. In terms of vibe, it seemed exactly the same, really.
Yeah,
but
that's
about
this
could have been different.
Isn't it? That's like, but the thing about games is it's different to trying to sell hardware. With gaming, you're trying to sell an experience to people. Like, you're trying to sell, like, you're building part of a culture. Like, here, that's kind of what gaming is, or it is to people like me who feel that it is that, and that. This didn't feel like they were in any way interested in that at all. They were only interested in just like, here's this amazing platform we've created, and that's it. There wasn't this idea of like, this is how we're going to contribute to gaming. Like,
so,
really.
so how would you have wanted them to communicate that in a different way then?
Well, I definitely would have wanted them to show me some games and stuff like that they were.
Definitely would be nice to see some for sure. I mean, I imagine we'll see something at E3, like a much more public-facing thing. This is obviously a GDC. Admittedly, it was streamed to hundreds of thousands.
It's streamed to everyone, isn't it? It's like, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's why I don't buy that whole thing of like, this is a game developers conference. It's like, well, fine, but then if that's the case, don't make this like it's a big launch event, because they did.
So you're saying that they shouldn't have live streamed it, or what?
No, I'm not saying they shouldn't have live streamed it, but they shouldn't have made out that this was like a big reveal, because they did. Like, they trailed, like, all of the outlets were trailing this before it went out as being like, this is like Google's big announcement of how they're getting into gaming. And so if you're going to do that,
technically it was just very like, hey guys, we've made a platform. Does anyone want to make games for it? Or
yeah,
like, that's basically what it was.
But can you imagine if, like, when Microsoft came up with the Xbox, they'd have like gone on stage and said, "We've made this box. Hopefully, some people are going to make some games for it," and then that's it. It's like it's odd. It's an odd way to engage with a creative art form. I feel it's an odd way to do that. I really think so.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would like to see some actual games and some real excitement. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I was It's GDC, and like if they were to do exactly this at E3, I'd be like, what the hell have you done? You've absolutely screwed it, and you've dropped the ball. But I like to think, this is a developers conference. I wasn't, it would be nice to see loads of stuff. We didn't get it, and I'm hoping it'll be a much more public facing one around E3 or the summertime. It's launching this year, so we're going to see something else with some actual games and maybe more news of partners. Also, price, minimum sort of internet speed you need, so on and so forth. It would have been nice, but I mean, to say it's like ridiculously sterile, this feels like any of their other sort of conferences, and I don't also expect them to fully change how they do these conferences just because something into gaming.
I don't think it would have killed them to just adapt a little bit, or better yet, just let Jade Raymond take over. Like she's done this stuff before, and I don't know. I mean, so they had the CEO on to begin with, didn't they?
Before as well.
Phil Harrison looked bored, by the whole thing. He didn't.
He always does, though.
That's me a shtick from day one. That's just what he's like.
But I mean, also, the other thing about this whole concept is to get people to move to your platform. You need games that are you can only get them on your platform, really, unless you're going to offer it for dirt cheap. And then maybe people are going to move over for third-party stuff if they come to it. But that's the other thing. Why? I mean, they said that they've created this studio, but I really would have expected more than just a logo or something. If it's launching at the end of this year or at some point in this year, you think that if they're still, although this is obviously different, they're still going up against Microsoft. They're still going up against Sony and Nintendo. And look at what's happened to Microsoft this generation when they haven't had any games, really nothing massively exclusive or anything. That's what you still need that in gaming. You still need to have a reason.
Is it's launching this year. They say they've been working on this for years, a couple of years at least. They've got the name, brilliant. Well, that could take 2 seconds. They've got a logo. Show us a showreel or something to oh fuck, they are properly serious about it. It's not just. Because you're right, they're launching this year. They haven't showed us anything. Maybe they're holding it back. But if they're not holding it back, then does that imply they haven't got anything for launch, for any first party stuff for launch, and they're just hoping other people jump on board?
The weirdest bit with that was when Dylan Cuthbert came up on stage, and then
I missed that bit. I was doing school run. What did he say?
I mean, he spoke, but it was really strange because he didn't say anything really. For the whole time, it was just that, and it did sound a bit like he had a gun to his head as well, in the sense of I
was a bit like when he came up with a screenshot of Pixel Junk Shooter as to illustrate an example of, I forget which bit of functionality it was, but I was like, that game's about 8 years old.
Yeah,
why is that the example they've reached for? I thought that was odd, but
see, I'm sure that they have got stuff coming. I'm sure they have because they.
Oh yeah,
it'd be mad if they
have.
haven't. But I just think it was an odd choice at a gaming thing, and also with the trailer and everything, to not show off just show Assassin's Creed again. I mean, it's just odd, isn't it?
Yeah, I did think that was odd. We all know that was the game they tested with it, so to then continue to just lean on that was very strange.
Why not show one of Ubisoft's new stuff that they've got coming out, or let's say, here's the Division running on this, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just odd. I just thought that was odd. It's that they didn't do that.
So yeah, I don't know. Potentially some interesting aspects to it if it's cheap. Of course, I'm curious. If it's a nice way to just hoover up games that I'm not willing to go out and spend 40-50 quid on, but I can play an hour of and go, yeah, it's not for me. Brilliant. That's there's worth in that in and of itself. But obviously if that's most people's attitude towards it, then it's not going to reinvent anything. It's just an additional thing. But then obviously maybe it's just not aimed at us.
It's aimed at everyone.
We'll continue to be the kind of people who actually prefer to buy and own games consoles. Whereas this maybe appeals to a much more casual audience. I don't know.
It's aimed at everyone. That's what I kept saying.
It is aimed at literally everyone.
Apart from in China, because obviously they're not allowed in China.
When they were banging on about accessibility at the start, I thought there was going to be a real, in terms of people with actual ability issues or something. But it's no, it just means it's going to be on anything with a screen, basically.
Yeah.
which is strange. But
yeah, I mean, the major things are like performance, we don't know about, price, we don't know about, and games, we don't know about. Those are the three things that are going to make or break this device.
The three major things, the most important things for any console. We don't know anything about them.
But in terms of technology, it's really exciting. I like Twitter basically made me almost like close my account with everyone suddenly becoming like a fucking Google technician, like everyone's an expert in like infrastructures and stuff. Suddenly, like, it will never work. Like we don't know. We haven't properly seen it. Like, and there's so many different variables. Everyone's got a different speed internet. Some people in the sticks, some people in the city. There's like people in like USA get a different experience to people in Europe. Like we don't know yet, but the three critical things that we don't know about are the biggest issues. But as a technology, it's exciting. It feels like they're probably there.
It is exciting in terms of like what it can do, but I do think also there are concerns related to this as well. Like I said, like about the modding stuff. We don't know.
How often are you modding, James? Most
I'm
weekends?
not, but other people are, and really good stuff has come out of modding, Matt.
Yeah,
and it's like
probably.
What do you mean probably?
Sure
loads of really good stuff's come out of that.
I'm sure they'll find a way to incorporate that somehow. I don't know how.
I'm not convinced because they want to control this, and this is the whole thing with these massive like tech companies now is everything's about control. I mean, the other thing that was really weird during that conference is they kept on doing those pauses for applause, and often there was no applause, which is quite funny. Like when he says, no hacking, no cheating, and then there was a pause, nobody did anything. That was quite funny. But how a smaller developer is going to get paid? There's so many questions about this, about like how this is actually going to work. And as a proof of concept, it looks fine. It looks very interesting, but also there are concerns, I think.
Yeah, but there's no need to be concerned about whether devs are going to get paid. They're going to get paid, and like they've always said, devs can sign up with that link at the end and so on and so forth.
Or Google AdSense. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Google has other products. I don't know why you're moaning about that. Like, what you think? Like, are they going to have no ads?
Because I don't want indie games to go away. I don't want this to become a whole closed system.
What do you say? They don't want indie games to go away.
Google have got control of everything.
They're going to want to call indie devs because they want 1 million games in this thing. Like,
and just lock the whole thing down and control it, so we can't do anything.
Sorry?
No, because then they can lock the whole thing down and control everything. That's the thing with this. It's just
they're going to want indie games on this thing, James. So they want 1 million games on this thing. And also you saying, and you being concerned that they might not have it. It's just you don't know one way or the other. So why are you concerned that there won't be any indie games on this thing? They haven't said that.
No, I'm not saying there won't be any indie games. I'm just saying there's something. I don't know. I'm not so happy about the idea of everything being locked away on Google servers. And everything's like being run directly from them. And there's no ownership at all there, like for anybody really. And there's something I don't know. Something I just don't like about that so much.
Yeah, I mean,
fair enough. I mean, obviously we talked on the last episode about the whole sort of preservation argument. So to an extent, this does freak me out as well because no one's going to be out. Like, this is a service where not only is there the risk that you won't be able to download something in future, you'll never be able to download it. You'll never be able to have your own local copy of anything. So if it's not on the server, you're fucked, and that is grim.
I mean, there's an outside chance you could download stuff. I mean, obviously, a couple of years ago, you couldn't download Netflix things, and now you can. Maybe obviously they're very, very different, like beasts, but there's an outside chance.
That's not the same, though, is it? It'll still have a license that expires on it.
But I wouldn't this is a streaming service. I wouldn't like the idea of ownership. I wouldn't expect it to be. I wouldn't expect to be offended or annoyed by that because that's basically the sort of service you're signing up for. It is a streaming service, whether it is locked off elsewhere. If I'm really got an issue with that sort of stuff, I wouldn't buy into this at all, or be happy with my physical discs and games on other platforms. That isn't this. I guess my biggest question is, is this going to be like a $10 a month type thing, like Netflix?
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. We always get, pricing is going to be really crucial.
I looked earlier.
It definitely looks like it'll be subscription based because they were talking about the fluidity of like, oh, this is a video about a game and I can just click this and play it. If there's a paywall there, that's going to ruin that. So I think it's just going to be if you have a sub, you can just do it.
That's what's going to be really interesting about which publishers get on board with that. Are they going to? Because, they're going to want to protect their revenue streams, aren't they? I mean, I don't think EA would want to give up, everybody giving them £50 every year, for like FIFA and stuff. You see what I mean? If it's being put on this.
No, but also if this thing does do well, and that they know that people can't sell FIFA because it's on this thing, and I think they might offset that sort of stuff with the amount people potentially could be buying in DLC and digital purchases and microtransactions and whatnot. I mean, this is a platform where they know you can't sell the games. But who knows? I mean, I looked earlier because they mentioned, okay, you need like the Chromecast Ultra. That's £70 for a start. So if you want,
does it have to be the Ultra? Yeah.
If you want the 4K HDR gaming, it's the Chromecast Ultra, and that's 70 currently.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, but the pad looked fine. I mean, I've watched like the Digital Foundry impressions, and they say it sort of feels like an Xbox One S, and I guess X pad. It's got the symmetrical sticks, which I'm not a huge fan of. I prefer the sort of sticks on the Xbox pad, but I guess I can live with it. It looks like darn sight better, obviously, than like the renders from the original patent drawings that we saw the other week. I thought it was really, really exciting. I mean, this feels like they've got technology. Obviously, the big thing is the price, the performance, and the games are the things who are after next. But I wonder if they do an E3 conference or something like that, or something in that week. If it comes
that would be the way to put a stamp on it, wouldn't it? Like, so okay, they've done this sort of slightly weird half reveal. So if they can get some devs signed up in the next few months, and then so come E3, they can be like, here are some games that are on the way to on their way to it, and here's how much it will cost, and it'll be cheap, and please don't use any other consoles ever again. I don't know, it could happen, but
as I said, I think the technology is very interesting. I'm just worried about Google owning this. I just really. I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable about it. It's just...
I mean, unless they start throwing the weight around and demanding exclusivity, which it doesn't look like they are yet. I think, if devs are always free to choose and to put their games on other things, I don't think this is going to change, how we do everything. I think it's adding an option, and it's a different way of doing it. I mean, we've seen, as I say, we've seen people try this and fail before. I think certainly we're in a better position for it now, because I think certainly, I imagine Google has got a bigger computer than OnLive had. And also, just broadband infrastructure in general, still not brilliant in a lot of places, but certainly better than it was,
and it is going to keep getting better as well. I mean, well, in theory, it should just keep getting better anyway, so we should be more ready for this.
Yeah, I mean, they said that a single machine that you can basically dial into, that's more powerful than the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro put together. And then you can also have multiple of those for certain games.
That was another interesting thing we've skipped over. They were talking about, the fact that split screen gaming is it's not so common these days because getting one GPU or whatever to render from several different viewpoints breaks loads of funny tricks that developers use to make things render smoothly and not look like shit. So it's pretty rare. Whereas what they were saying with this is that, well, actually you can have a split screen game and each half of the screen is actually running on a different instance. Potentially interesting. Again, I don't know how much use we'll actually see of that. But it's an interesting way to solve that problem. Just add another computer, idiot. There's something quite good about that approach, I guess. They showed off some scenery destruction game, didn't they? Which, I mean, barely looked like a game. It was just a sort of tech demo.
Yeah.
But again, I was like, we saw this with Crackdown 3 years ago, and look how that turned out.
So which of the three do you think would be most bothered by this? Because I think I think Nintendo cares. I mean, well, you say that, but then Microsoft have got all the infrastructure, haven't they, to be able to do this themselves? They could almost certainly do this themselves. Yeah, but they're also
the only other ones that are trying to do it, whereas the others, you could argue, certainly in Nintendo's case, they're just this is so far from what they normally do that, it's probably not really going to interfere all that much.
Mm-hmm. And there could always be an app, couldn't there, on Switch or whatever, for it. It's always possible.
Yeah, I mean, but Microsoft's obviously a ginormous company, but obviously Google have a bigger infrastructure. But for this will be Microsoft.
Is that so? Because Microsoft's got like Azure and all that sort of stuff. I mean,
I guess, yeah. It's my impression that Google probably have more data centers around the world than Microsoft, but maybe I'm wrong. But this has been, what Microsoft's been talking about for the last 6 to 12 months. And after Google say, here we go, bang. Like, I wonder if Microsoft are going to be able to compete with these specs. But
Microsoft do that a lot, don't they? They always do a lot of sort of like trailing, like they've got something new and everything, and then it's it was like that with smartphones and everything, and then somebody else comes out with something better. And
but then there's Sony who like bought Gaikai, hasn't talked about any of this stuff. And then they're like, oh god, wow, Microsoft are really like doing loads of crazy stuff. And then suddenly Google's like, hey, we've got something that's twice the power of your two machines put together.
So that's the thing. I mean, if you were Sony, if I was Sony, I'd be worried in terms of the technology stuff because they're clearly not there and probably haven't got the money to be there either. But they do have like massive game library though, and like they've got all like those exclusives and stuff that I still think counts for something, like having all that stuff.
I was thinking like I listened to this a bit on the way home, and I was thinking like in a few years are we going to be saying, oh, do you remember when we used to just play console games on that one machine? You had to physically go to that console and put a disc in or download it to that one console. It's going to feel archaic when we could potentially play on our phones, tablets, laptops. Does doing that anywhere you want, does that interest either of you guys?
It does, yeah. That's why I said the controller's really interesting. It's an interesting concept.
I mean, yeah, but I'm not going to do this out of the house because it'll just use up loads of my data, and I'll have to use on-screen touchscreen controls, or maybe there is a solution for the controller.
No, because of that, I guess I'll just pack the controller wherever I go, and then that'll just connect to the Wi-Fi if I'm at work or I don't know, elsewhere.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
The idea is like the controller is like the handheld device. I mean literally. And
for that sort of stuff, I can't see this replacing the Switch.
No, definitely not.
But I don't know.
You're not going to be able to play this on a plane, are you? Or whatever,
no.
Or like on a train. Well, you probably could, but it'd be awful.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi's out on that.
Except that every time you go through a tunnel, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting. But what just really angry me is like everyone on Twitter saying it'll never work because they shut down Buzz. It's like I know they've done that, but like.
I mean, yeah,
have we got to give him a chance? And it was like, it never worked because it never worked because the YouTube video I'm watching now is buffering. Fucking hell!
I mean, Google do have a history of just shutting things. I mean, how many Messenger applications have they gone through, like in the last year?
Even in the last couple of weeks, they've shut down Allo. But
yeah, they said to start.
So they've shut down Allo. They're getting rid of Hangouts, and they're trying to establish their sort of standard messaging app. It's got this new, sort of decent like text service on it but apparently like only one network in the UK uses.
Yeah.
So that's not really going too well.
But they do love experimenting with this stuff, and I mean, if they've put in, obviously they've put in a lot of money into this and a lot of time, so definitely give it a go. See how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine they put more money and time and people into this than they did Google Reader. I mean, I saw some tweets saying, well, Google Reader had 3 million users and they shut that down. Like, yes, I'm sure, but this feels like a bit of a different thing than an RSS feed that someone probably built and then said, let's just launch it.
Google Reader was really good, Matt.
Well, I'm sure it probably was, but then, I like Google Wave and Google Buzz and stuff. Like, they came and went, this is something different. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
What about Google Plus? Do you reckon this will be Google Plus enabled?
I hope so.
I got anyone
share all my cool
screenshots
on Google Plus.
I don't know if that's going to happen. I guess we better go because Sean's streaming in 20 minutes. But I'm excited, and all naysayers just make me incredibly angry. I guess we'll see. I think we'll see what happens when they announce the price, performance, and the games. But until then, it's like no one knows what it's going to be like. So shut the fuck up, everyone. So
see, as I said, I believe the tech is fine. I just have reservations about Google doing this. It's and that conference did not allay any of my fears.
Who would you rather do in this, like Google or Facebook?
Neither. Are you joking? What's going on?
I know. I just wanted you to choose one of them.
I mean, out of the two, Google, but
it's a close run thing.
And you'd rather Apple did it out, but either of them two, I guess, yeah.
Maybe, but Apple don't care. I mean, the thing is with Apple is at least they're going to be like pretty inept with it, and it's not going to ruin everything. Whereas Google will just lock everything down. It'll just be yeah. ad tracking. Cool. You're going to be watching everything we're doing. You know, it's just
like every single platform has ad tracking. Every single platform. But Google are no different. Trust me. Programmatic programming and advertising is on every single platform.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it good.
That doesn't make it. That's just part of the web. But you're saying, "Oh, Google tracking." Oh, I can't believe it. Literally every website you go on is tracking you.
Yeah, of course they do. But then some are worse than others, Matt. Like if you look like. Sean just said, like, you know, Facebook is probably even worse than that, but some are worse than others. And Google are not a great company in terms of this stuff. They're really not.
Yeah, I think we're going to have ads on the dashboard, though. That's my prediction.
I don't think there's going to be a dashboard, is there? I think the dashboard is like YouTube.
YouTube, yeah.
Yeah. So,
although it's still probably better than the Xbox One's interface.
Hey! So yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, I'm not massively convinced, but also it will probably cost me either nothing or very little to check it out. Yeah. So wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure over the next few days before the next episode, not the one that's happening coming out tomorrow, episode 144, but before episode 145 comes out, obviously GDC is this week, so I'm sure we hear lots more in the demos, the hands-ons. Like Digital Foundry put out like a hands-on as well. I've watched before, and they seem actually quite impressed overall. There's obviously some big question marks, a lot of the ones we've also discussed here, but yeah, hopefully we'll hear more next week or so.
Cool. Right, well, I hope you've enjoyed this bonus episode of Interface. Yeah, I think it's been worth doing this, because if we'd sat on it for a week, we'd have... I mean, maybe embarrassed ourselves less. Maybe it was the wrong decision to just
shoot from the hip
as soon as we've seen it.
After the conference, I was seething. Mostly because I was like, I enjoyed that. Oh, just look at Twitter. Oh, no, everyone's just shitting on it, and it's depressing as hell.
People on Twitter do love doing that, to be fair.
No, it never worked for fighting games.
I mean, that is valid, but also I don't.
But also, we haven't tried the technology, so we don't know. That's literally previous ones haven't worked for fighting games, and until we know it maybe doesn't work. But this is Google. I like to think they're doing something different. It feels like they are doing something different. Let's wait and see.
I mean, no,
they're not doing something
it literally
different.
Can't work for something like fighting games where people are actually counting every frame, because it's already an issue to fighting game players, like the latency between controller and console, and then the display on the TV.
Yeah,
never mind
LCD versus CRT and whatever.
Yeah, so introducing a cable that's going across the Atlantic or whatever, not good.
No.
But
then maybe this isn't the platform for fighting games.
Exactly. Maybe it's just and as I say, I don't think this is going to be the way all things are done in future. I think it's just going to be an option. Yeah. Which is fine, I guess. So
it's just a stepping stone to wherever we get to, but it's an exciting one, I think.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Right. Thanks for listening. I'm going to go and get ready because I'm supposed to be streaming in a minute. That's it. Do I have to say the typical sign-off if this is a bonus episode?
That's right.
Brilliant. Fine. Suits me.
Bye.
Bye.